Welcome to We Build Great Apartment Communities, the only show dedicated to the process and strategies for transforming apartment buildings to thriving communities. I am your host, John Brackett, and welcome to the show. All right, folks, welcome to another great episode of We Build Great Apartment Communities, the only place where you come to learn how to take apartment buildings and turn them into amazing communities. So I have another great guest. His name is Michael Oliver. So Michael Oliver, welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, thank you for having me, John. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you, man. Hey, great setup, by the way. Really like your setup. You know, you got a nice setup going on there. So hey, I am going to invite our audience into this conversation by sharing with them your story and who you are. And then in fact, I'm going to have you tell your story. So Michael Oliver is a visionary behind the Purpose Companies and has served as its CEO and chairman since starting the company in 2001. Guided by integrity and a servant heart, Michael built this collection of real estate companies to positively impact lives by creating quality, sustainable communities for tenants and wealth preservation and cash flow for investors. So, hey, I really love that business purpose and that summary. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know, from reading your bio, you flipped roughly 100 homes. You have a pretty good construction background. You've done some ground up developments. And so, you're not new at this, but it sounds like now you've made a big pivot to focus on acquiring and developing and investing in larger assets, in this case, multifamily assets. So
Sure.
Man, share your story.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I got started really in just being an entrepreneur right out of high school. I had a scholarship to Ohio State, academic scholarship to Ohio State. And, to be honest, man, I really wanted to start a business. We didn't have too much growing up, and I wanted to get out and start to make a little bit of money, help my family out. And so, I started business. My background is in design, graphic design, fashion. So my first companies were all fashion brands. And so that kind of transitioned to children's wear later on. But along the way, I got into other investments, man. I've been in, you name it, pretty much every industry, man. I've had investing in vodka companies, dry cleaners, trucking. I sold hair, like women's hair, and honestly, man, if it makes sense, I love business. And so, for me, it's all about people, process, and product. And so, getting those things right, I think, every business is pretty much the same. And so, I pivoted into real estate really just by chance. I found my passion in real estate around 2018. My grandmother's house, she died in 2009. That house sat vacant. It sat in probate, and it was actually facing a tax foreclosure. And I was home from Los Angeles, where some of my factories were, like my fashion brand factories. And I was able to find out that the house was scheduled to be auctioned off that week. So it was a Tuesday. And, I didn't know much about real estate. I decided to go down to the courthouse and bounce around and figure out, what was going on with the property. And they told me that, I had about 24 hours to pay. It was just over $11,000 in taxes in order to stop the foreclosure sale. So, I was able to do that, stop it. I hired a probate attorney and decided to renovate it just with, a handyman that I knew. And we started to Airbnb it. And so, actually being familiar with the process, I bought a house up the street about 7 doors down. And this is a house one of the houses I grew up in, a neighborhood that I was very familiar with.
Right.
And so I bought the house up the street and decided to renovate it too, And so my grandmother's house, I wanted to preserve as much as possible, right? It's a lot of history and memories in the house. But the other house, 100-year-old homes, right? These are inner city homes. So a lot of, really old character. And, we took that one down to the studs. And, this is my first couple of real estate deals. But I fell in love with it because it reminded me so much of just being able to take nothing and turn it into something, and design, being able to pick out the fixtures and finishes and paint colors. And so, I would just dove in, running a job site. I went and picked off my own subcontractors in other areas where they were doing subdivisions and building apartments and built a team and decided to renovate those. And so, from there, I fell in love with it and decided I was going to start a couple businesses. And so in 19, that led to me starting to wholesale. I learned about wholesaling, learned about, doing some cosmetic flips and kind of tweaking the business model. And so we did a little bit of everything in 19 and 20. And that's where the 100 houses came from, is that, we flipped houses wholesale, we did cosmetic, we did some larger flips, we did a little bit of land development, some entitlement stuff. And really that led to the project I'm working on now, which is a 153 unit ground up development out in Reynoldsburg. So, really just dove right into real estate, fell in love with it. And, I think that is the easiest way to make impact. So, I'm all in.
Awesome, man. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that story in your background. You said a couple of things that really stood out to me. One was the academic scholarship at Ohio State. So congratulations on that, man. I think that's tremendous. Now,
Thank
what
you.
was it in? Was it in architecture or design or both?
No, so that scholarship was it was a general scholarship, but it was an academic scholarship, for me to go to Ohio State, attend 4 years. But I just decided it really wasn't for me. I didn't want to go to school. Ohio State is a great school. A lot of my friends end up going to Ohio State, but
Yes.
for me, it just made more sense to just get out and start a business and get some real world experiences and training. And so it works.
Yeah. I really appreciate that, man. I agree with a lot of the things that you said about getting out and learning how to apply or getting direct real world experience, right? Because you can always go back to school and now you just have a better understanding of how all that stuff fits together. In fact, my oldest daughter did something very similar. She said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to start a business," when she was a sophomore in college.
Yep.
And I said, "Go for it," because now you're going to actually get real world experience. And when you decide to go back, you'll know how this stuff all works, right? You know how to apply it. And so she's going through that right now. She's going through that
nice.
process right now. And, she's
what type of business?
She got into digital marketing.
Nice. It's a great place to be.
Digital marketing. And, she's learning. She doesn't have a problem selling, but now she's learning how to, right? She has to service her customers. She has to take care of them. And, she's learning how to keep them. She's learning how to hire people and hire people. So it's all new to her, but she's smart. She'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So a couple other things that stood out to me about what you said, right? People, process, and product. And that conversation can map over to pretty much any business, right? People, process, product. So talk a little bit about your experiences refining that or learning about people, process, product. And then how do you intend on mapping that over to, what you're doing today? How has that carried over to what you're doing today?
Yeah, no, great question. So honestly, that concept originally came from Marcus Lemonis, right, and The Prophet, TV show that really he would go in and buy distressed businesses, fix the people, the process, and the product. And, he will either sell the business or hold on to the business long term. And so, for me, what I realized is that, it is, like you said, it carries over to everything. And so, within real estate, the people, it's about finding the right people, right? So it can be everything from your acquisitions, your dispositions people, and single family, your transaction coordinator, right? These are all this is the team that I built early on with single family stuff. And now moving into development, it's really about your architect, your engineer, about understanding who the people are within the city that you want to build in, and then leveraging the experience, right, and the know-how of those people in order to, put together your process and your product. And so, the process is incredibly important in everything, right? And so process could be systems and processes. So like in single family, we utilized a lot of dollar systems. We utilized a lot of the flow charts, right? Like putting together a process that is so easy for people to follow. It prevents mistakes. It prevents for people from having to learn on the fly. And if they make mistakes, right, we know now it's about tweaking the process. And so the product, it's the end result, right? And so on the front end, the product is buying a distressed property, helping a person out who may be in a bad situation financially and need to sell the property, and or in development, it's the end result, right? Understanding what the market wants, understanding, how to make the numbers work, and putting out a product that, stands out in the market and that works in the numbers.
Right. Yeah, I really appreciate what you said. So here's something that I had to learn over the years, and it took me a while to figure this out. And I'm actually going through this now. So my focus now, I made a decision to scale, right? And so for the last, I want to say for the last 3 months, I've been hyper focused on creating SOPs. In fact, I just finished 2 today. And these SOPs are very specific to our property management company, because that's where I see a very unique opportunity. But why don't you think more people get into this? And I'll use myself as an example. I mean, it took me probably a good couple years before I really got committed to that process, but it was out of the necessity of pain, right? Pain that I said, okay, this is not working anymore. I've been able to get to this level of scale, okay, with average processes and systems. And in order for me to move beyond this and actually enjoy my life, right, and be able to build something that will last and be a going concern, I have to get more serious about this and actually put, a real process and real systems in place that anybody can come in and operate without me having to, right? Why don't you think that, especially as in this space as an entrepreneur, that those conversations are not happening when people first start their businesses? Why do you think that is?
I was one of those people. And I think that until you really understand the importance of putting the right people in the right seat, and being able to understand that people are going to succeed where they naturally find flow, right? And so, everybody's not meant.
I'm quoting you on that. And I'm saying this so my team can quote you on that. That's a great one, man. You're going to succeed. Yeah. In fact, let me repeat that. You're going to succeed where you naturally find flow.
Yes.
That's genius. Yeah. That's genius.
And I think that's in business and it's in life, and it's great to be able to be flexible, but I think it's important, especially for business owners, to even be able to find flow yourself. And so, I know I'll become a nerd when I'm studying, a new business, a new process, some information I want to apply in my business, I do as much studying as possible. And so, really being able to take an audit of all of the things that you're doing throughout your day and figuring out which of those things you feel really speak to you, right? And they don't even have to be the things that you do well yet, but the things that you really enjoy doing. Because then when times get tough, right, and when you need to study a little bit more, or when you need to put in a little bit extra work, it's a natural energy there, right? We love to do the things that, are easier for us, right? And so I think that for me, I understood that within myself. And so, I when I'm hiring, I utilize DISC assessments, I utilize Colby tests. I really understand, the people, right? The people that I'm bringing in, because I don't just want to know how they think, I want to know how they take action. And so being able to understand those things, I can put them in the right seat so that they succeed. And then as a business and as a team, we succeed. And so I always make sports references, right? I played basketball growing up. I always use sports references. And so, you look at a basketball team, there's a position, right? There's a specific position on that team. You got a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, power forward, center, right? And you don't want your center bringing the ball up the court. You don't want your center typically taking 3-point shots, right? Now, the league is changing a lot, so
exactly.
That might be a little interchangeable now, but, traditionally, everybody has a, position within that team. And then to take it a step further, typically you have a coach within that position, a shooting coach, right? A dribbling coach, a skills coach.
Right.
And so you really want to be able to focus on those things that, are strengths of people and pass off the weaknesses to other people where they become strengths. Right. And I think your team is stronger.
Yeah, that's such a smart analogy, man, and assessment. I think there's a literally $1 million nugget in there. And, I really appreciate you talking through that, because it's such an important element of business. The other thing that you said that really stood out that I really love is that you said that you love operating business. You love business, right? And I think oftentimes when people are getting into this space, they don't come in with a mindset of building business or building enterprise. In other words, they don't come in with a mindset of being good at business. And I think when you are focused on being great at business, it makes doing business in any industry, especially in this industry, I don't want to say easier, but it gives you, I think, a greater advantage. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. And I think because it really goes back to understanding that in any business, in any type of relationships, right? Everybody has different strengths, different personalities, different intelligences. And this is something I just learned recently. It's 8 different types of intelligence, right? Some people are better at speaking. Some people are better at numbers. Some people are better at, being able to identify shapes and distances. And so, you can really, really get into like the nuts and bolts and get down to a granular level of what strengths people have. And I think being able to do that, you can really, use that to the advantage of the entire team. And so, yeah, I just think it's so important, and it carries over to anything you're doing.
So give me an example of that, because what you said, I really like. I think there's some value in expanding on that conversation about learning how to identify people's strengths, right?
Yeah.
So was that from a recent book that you read or a course that you took? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so it is from everything, right? And so it's from learning and bumping my head, right? Trying to do everything, knowing that I need to outsource as much as I can, take the things off of my shoulders that, start to make me feel like I'm being drained, right? And I think that's probably the easiest way to tell, right? What things give you energy? What things do you feel like you can do all day long? What things, come natural and easy to you? And so, I really have found that for me, getting that, taking the time, that's necessary is like a relationship, in business, your employees, it's a relationship, your personal life, relationships, right? And being able to find out, not if so much the match is there, between you and I, but understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, being honest with ourselves, and being able to really say, okay, well, these are yours, these are mine. Can we handle this? Can we handle it now? Do we need to bring in another person? Do we need to bring in somebody who maybe not is a part of this relationship, but they're out a third party and they can bring in the difference, and really being able to look at it from a holistic standpoint.
I really like that, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing that. So tell us about some of the projects that you have going on that you want to, talk about and, use as maybe a case study on the show.
Yeah. So honestly, the project I'm working on, 150 units, it's a mix of apartments and townhomes. So Reynoldsburg is about 15 minutes east. It's a suburb 15 minutes east of downtown Columbus. And Columbus is a city that's growing, right? Really, really fast. And so a lot of it is proximity. We're like within a 3 days drive from anywhere in the nation. And so we have a lot of big companies moving here. Intel just launched that they're putting a $2 billion, $1 billion microchip plant. You have Amazon, you have Google, and then you also have Facebook. Facebook just put an 18 million square foot like data centers. There's 18 of them. They're 1 million square feet apiece, right? And so that growth puts like Reynoldsburg in a great place, put Columbus in a great place. And so this project, it came by chance, really, doing the fix and flip, the wholesale, relationships, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Right. And, it's 7.5 acres. It's out, right on the main street, right? Which, with rental properties, that's a huge thing. It's close to downtown Reynoldsburg where there's a lot of growth. And really, I decided just to take it down. I looked originally to bring in partnerships with people because, again, I can be honest with myself and say, okay, yeah, I know I have the experience. I know I can take down anything, but, I haven't done something like this just yet. But then when I tried to bring in partners, it just wasn't a good fit, right? I knew what it was worth. I knew what it could be. So I decided to invest my own money, right? And so I had some small commercial buildings. I sold those. I took everything I had, and I really decided just to take this down. I had some experience with raising private money, doing my fix and flip. And so I raised the difference. And unlike what you're supposed to do in development, we decided to close on the land. And the reason being is because there was a timeline, right? We were able to get a great price on the land. And of course, I did some, initial due diligence, but we were able to get a great price on the land because the seller needed to sell.
Right.
And so, for me, it made sense. We closed on the land. And then I really just decided to put a team together based on relationships that I had already. So I already had a relationship with an architect who was, very knowledgeable. She's done these types of projects before. And bringing her in, then we were able to kind of build a team going from there. So bringing in a strong engineer, bringing in the right construction or GC. And so even down to the GC, I brought in a GC to help with kind of the pre-con stuff. Someone who's been has done development before, not just a GC, just focused on construction, but someone who understands the pro forma, understands the importance of the numbers. And so from there, we were really able to put together a project that now is an incredible opportunity. And so, we're in the final stages, kind of ticking down the clock on financing to get our construction loan approved, and hopefully we'll be breaking ground in May.
Do you have construction permits already?
Yeah, so we're pulling site work permits right now. We're a second round submission, so we had some comments come back on the first one. We made those changes. We're resubmitting in about a week. And then we expect those to be approved within 30 days or so. The site plan will be approved, ready to go. In the midst of that, we're finishing up our DD drawings, locking in our budget, and starting to get those bids, and then we'll be off to the races.
And what's the total project cost?
Yeah, so it's a $23 million project. And so I think $2 million of it is site work. And it's 3-story garden style apartments. And then we have the townhomes that are 2 stories with 1-car garage. It's a really nice community. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. I can hear it in your voice. So what's been when you look back on this project from where you started to where you are today, what's been your greatest learning experience? Yeah,
man, I think the greatest learning experience has been within the financing. I've had the experience in single family and land entitlement enough to understand that, but these projects are financed completely different than anything I've done before. And so understanding how to finance them and getting a late start on that, right? It was a fun learning experience. And so, one of the benefits was that I owned the land. And so, it wasn't ideal, but owning the land allowed me to be able to take a little bit of time, to learn that process, not really feel pressure, right? That I had an option, that, my clock was running, and that, if I got investors, the longer it takes, they benefit, right? And so that part of it, the financing, was definitely the biggest learning curve.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart, man. Well, we're approaching the end of the show. And so, this has been a really great show. Just a lot of key nuggets, right? I think just to summarize, some of the key points that you talk about, approaching this industry as a business, right? So getting into this, being passionate about the business aspect of investing, I think will definitely add, will further your opportunities inside of this space, right? And then understanding also just the concept of people, process, and product, and building value around those 3 components. Man, I think that was just a great comment. And then your quote that you left us all with. You want to repeat that quote one more time? Because I love the quote.
Man, which one? I came off the top with it.
Oh, geez. Of course, I forgot that too, but I gotta go back and play this back, because I want to quote you. I want to quote you in that one, but that was a great one. But this has really been a great show. And
flow. That's what it was. It was about finding flow, people's strengths, and finding flow in their strengths.
Yeah, no, I like it. I love it. I love it. I love that flow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great show. Really appreciate you being on, and I think there's been a ton of nuggets, Michael, that you've been able to add, and just a lot of immediate takeaways, right? Things that, the things that I look for when I'm studying or learning something or listening to a podcast like this is, what can I take away from this and immediately implement? And man, you left probably about 10 things that are
man, I appreciate that, man.
Immediately actionable, right? I mean, just some really, really good actionable concepts. And so want to thank you for doing that, man. This has been a great show. Also want to continue to wish you success, in your projects. I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to say, I appreciate you having me on. The time flew by. I wish we had more time to share with each other, but thank you very much for allowing me to come onto your platform and speak with me. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I always like to ask at the end, what is a question that you have for me that you feel can bring some value to your audience and our audience as well?
Man, that's one question. Just one
question. Your best question.
So if you were to say, what was the number one thing that allowed you to grow, your business in this space, what would you be like? So, for me, it was people, process, and product, and flow. What do you think is the biggest thing or experience or, learning lesson that allowed you to grow?
Yeah, I think that question for me, it's changed based on where I'm at in my business cycle, right? So if you were to ask me that 10 years ago, my answer would have been completely different than what I'm about to tell you today. And so I just wanted to share that with the audience, because that question is going to change based on where you are. When you're first starting out, man, you are focused on really learning the industry, right? You're a technician. And I encourage that, because, the stronger you can sharpen your skill set, the greater your value goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're first starting out, you're really building your expertise, and the better and the smarter you get at something, and the more expertise you build, then you can command a premium for your service, right?
Yes.
You can't like charge more for something that you're not good at. Those two just don't go together.
Yeah.
Especially inside of this space, you want to really understand the business so that you can scale, right? You can delegate what you know, and you can't delegate what you don't. When you're delegating,
that's good.
When you're when you don't know something well and you move it off to someone else, it's called abnegation. And trust me, I've tried that, and it's massive implosions that were very expensive. I call them my expensive seminars, right?
That's good.
So because of those experiences, now I'm in a different place where I'm saying, okay, I have to build something sustainable. And the only way for me to do that is to be able to put process in place, and people that can manage or operate, follow the process, operate the process, and build process so good that in systems, because process and systems are very different, that can operate without me in it. And it's something that's, it's a new challenge for me, but I see the value in it. So, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, being in this space now, and what I'm trying to build now, I would say the biggest thing is learning how to delegate.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I've been really focused on learning. And so I'm juggling all these different balls now, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm learning how to build process better. Then once we build process, then we have to systematize it, right, with technology or whatever the mechanism is. And then, of course, now we have to bring in the right people, who can manage the process or operate with the process. And then on top of all that, now I have to learn how to be a better delegator so that I can free up my time to focus on the higher value things, which in this case, one of them is building process. And of course, have multiple projects going, so still have to manage those projects,
Yep.
Right? Multiple businesses, so still have to manage and hire people into those other companies and manage all those companies. So it's been an awesome challenge, right? I mean, there've been some challenging times, but I know myself, man, and I always know that I'm gonna get through the other side. If there's one thing that I rely on myself is, okay, I'm going to find a way through it.
I love it.
You know, I'm going to always find a way through. This time, though, the intention is very different because it's not just about finding a way to the finish line. Okay, it's making sure that I build something with a really long finish line, right? That people after me keep taking it forward. And so the challenge is a little bit unique, but man, it's a fun challenge, and I'm learning a lot every single day, and also making some really good mistakes every single day, but learning from those as well, though, right? And so hopefully that question.
No, that's great, man. That's a great answer.
But I think the big thing is that answer is going to change depending on where you are in your business cycle. But I would say process, systems, learning how to delegate, because you have to have people. Like the last 3 months, I hired 7 people.
Oh, man.
And so
in 3 months.
In 3 months. And now, you know, that's one of the reasons why I had to really get serious about building SOPs.
Yeah.
So that I can launch those SOPs and rely on the talent to follow the SOP, right? Without me having to micromanage or spend a lot of time training. And then on top of all that, now learning how to roll out 12-week plans to each of my team members so that I can manage them to results.
Man, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. No, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And you know, it's some, I think that the SOPs, right? Really spending the time putting those together and have them be, you know, so specific that, you know, you, like you said, you can allow them to follow that and it frees up your time. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been great having you on the show, Michael. Really appreciate you. Want to wish you continued success. Excited for the project that you're getting ready to start. And if I can be a resource to you in any way, reach out.
Yeah, likewise, man. And congratulations. I mean, you're in a project right now, so
yeah, I'm actually
good luck with that one. And
sitting in one of the units right now. You know, we're renovating this thing. Great location. You know, good little project. I exchanged into this. I sold, you know, two smaller properties and traded up into this thing, and great location. So this is going to be a portfolio. We're going to keep it.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Clarity of purpose creates our greatest competitive advantage. When we transform apartment buildings to thriving communities, we improve how people live and create assets with high profit margins. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this up with a friend. I'm John Brackett, bringing you things you can implement right away.